I was reading the scroll on Man from Planet Rizq.
Okay.
And then there's this part which caught my attention, which I needed. Maybe you can provide more information. Where the master teacher was asked what his purpose was.
Do you have
Then he
do you know what
mentions
page number? Because I just happen to have it in front of me. So, what page? And
I've forgotten the page number, but it should be one of the early pages. It should be page 20 something.
okay, but go ahead whilst I'll see if I can find it. Yeah.
Yeah, so the master teacher was asked what his purpose was, and he answers, my purpose is to raise you and prepare you for the now. Then it goes on to say, Tammuz, who was once disagreeable, is now agreeable, who will come and get those 144,000. Then after 1,000 years, they'll come back and save the planet. So, like, my questions were, maybe if you could just give more information about that.
Okay, cool.
The saving of the planet, is it saving it from the disagreeable, saving it from, like, yeah, maybe you can just give some details regarding that.
Sure. All right. One of the things that we have to emphasize is that the information that the master teacher was putting out prior to the year 2000, it's not the hereafter doctrine, right? When we say the hereafter doctrine, so a lot of people that didn't follow him through from books like The Man from Planet Rizq and many other books that he put out prior to the year 2000 are stuck a little bit in the old information. So where things have been updated and upgraded, you can get kind of left behind. But yes, it's still relevant. It's just that things have now been clarified and cleared up in terms of what he's teaching. So the mission has always been to raise beings. So again, when we say the 144,000, it's symbolic, it's a number, it's literal. And so his whole job is to prepare and raise us back to supreme beings, that we become the teachers. Yeah, it's ironic because this is what's happening now. Those students that have been walking with him, because many people said they will follow the Lamb wherever he goes, and he has taught us, and the year 2000 represented the end of that 6,000 year cycle, and a new cycle began. And that 6,000 year cycle was the end of the moon cycle, because you had 4 cycles of 6,000 years which complete, and then a new cycle begins where they say the 7th day, right? When you're looking at it from the symbolic kind of aspect, where the 6th day, so they say to you, God created the world, and then on the 6th day, or the 7th day, he rested. And but in terms of the cycles, after the 24,000 years, a new cycle begins, and this is what we're in, and that's the 1,000 years where these supreme beings that we are the new master teachers, that the master teachers raising to teach the new doctrine and the new world. When you use a word like the Lamb is a symbolic title of someone who is humble, right? Because the master teacher was referred to as the Lamb. And you have the Lamb and you have the lion, right? The lion deals with the new age that's coming in, known as the Aquarius, because when you start to look at the way these cycles take place, when you're moving into what they're calling into Leo, to, like I was saying about going to Aquarius, it's using the Sphinx as the lion, because the Sphinx in Egypt represented that, when you're looking at the let's say the hands of a clock that's moving, but you're dealing with an intergalactical cycle. And so what I'm saying is, words like the Lamb, words like Tammuz, in the old doctrine, in terms of before the hereafter doctrine, when you're dealing with Tammuz is a name that was used in ancient Sumerian right? Who was the being that the story, because remember the Anunnaki stories, when you're saying Tammuz, Tammuz is the son of Dumuzi and Ishtar. That same story was the same story in ancient Egypt that's relating to who they're calling Osiris, Isis, and Horus. So what I'm saying is like Tammuz is the sixth in the calendar, in the Sumerian calendar. That's the sixth day. Okay, so the symbology in terms of Tammuz, in terms of the lamb, all those titles, even terms like the Messiah, because in our Telegram group, somebody else was shocked when I was saying that the master is the Messiah, and it's put in the, I think there's a video we did already about that. And people get, because of the religious mindset, they said, oh, he can't be the Messiah. They're waiting for a Messiah. But when you break down the word Messiah, it's dealing with the anointed. And many people were anointed and have been anointed for thousands of years. And it's a ceremony that comes from ancient Egypt where you were using the oil of a crocodile to anoint somebody, okay? So the term of a Messiah is not as great as how people try to make it when you compare it to being a god. And it's common now for everybody to say we're gods and we're goddesses, and people will say you're blaspheming, you can't be God. And it's like, we break down the word. What does the word God mean? What language are you coming from? And which scripture are you coming from? And we know that it breaks down in the Hebrew as Elohim, and there are more than one. So what I'm saying is that you have to upgrade. We have to move into the hereafter doctrine that is dealing with what's happening now. Because even in the Man from Planet Rizq book, he explains about the time period known as now, which again is talking about from the year 1970, right, to the year 2000, first half hour, and from the year 2000 to 2030, which we are in now, which is the full hour. So now is that time period, but there are cycles within cycles within cycle, because you can also look at the cycle from 1973 or even 1943 because of the Philadelphia experiment, because that's also spoken about in the Man from Planet Rizq book, the Philadelphia experiment, which at the time they were trying to carry out this experiment of teleportation. You know, they had the USS Aldridge, which is a ship in Virginia, and they were trying to make it disappear and appear. And, you know, the whole movie is out, called the Philadelphia experiment. But the point is that the scientists at the time, Nikola Tesla being one of them, who is a Venerian, by the way, because he was the first person to have radio communication to Venus and beings from Venus. This is why he was so smart, because he was actually in contact with these Venusians, which he was one himself. But he was the one that was in charge of that experiment, and he knew that they didn't have the technology at the time to be able to carry out this experiment. And he tried to warn Van Neumann and these other scientists that they shouldn't carry it ahead and to wait, but they didn't. So he's kind of sabotaged the testing, and because the reason is they didn't have enough technology power to create the computers to align the zero time reference, because that's key in terms of when you're doing teleportation. So you may have seen Star Trek back in the day on TV, where in order to teleport you from one place to another, they have to lock in your zero time reference to be able to break you down into your molecular structure, digitize that, and transport you to, because you have the coordinates of where you want to go, and then reassemble you based on your information being put back together. If you get the calculations wrong, then what happened in the Philadelphia experiment is that people were merging with the ship and the metals, and, you know, lives were lost. So they didn't have that technology, so they needed 3 years to build that computer, and it threw off time. And this is why the vortexes started to open every 10 years after that 1943 Philadelphia experiment. So 1953, 63, 73, etc., 2003, and obviously we were 2013, and so on, right? So, wow, we've got quite a few donations coming in. So I hope I answered the question. The thing about questions you guys ask, they bring out information from us. So when we're asking questions to do with the hereafter doctrine, we give that. But when people ask information to do with the information prior to that, we give that also. But really, we need to catch up, we need to study and come up to date. But I hope that's answered that question for you. So he's preparing those beings now, and those beings become the new teachers, the new master teachers to carry out and teach. Oh yeah, you were asking about saving the planet. Yes, the planet was on a path to destruction by the disagreeable beings, and it's still possible. This is why we have to raise our vibration and raise the consciousness of humanity to change the negativity on the planet so we can help to save the planet. And so it's not just about just accumulating knowledge and reading books, because you may be given back your barothry gland, which gives you your full abilities. And the more power you have, great power comes with great responsibility. And so that's what you are. You're being turned into a supreme being. And it's important to take this seriously, be studious, study, and apply Wu-Sabat. All right?